You probably think that being in your feminine energy means submitting to your man. It means letting him lead. But that couldn't be further from the truth. That is exactly what you shouldn't be doing. Because if you fall into his shadow and you listen to what he wants to do all the time, you are following his lead, then what you want gets lost in translation. You become a shell of the person that you actually genuinely want to be. And that's why later down the line, 3-4 years from now, you feel this insane disconnect, not only from him but from yourself. You feel like the shell of the person that you once were. You feel this need to want to end this marriage or this relationship in order to go and reconnect with who you are. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you actually want from a relationship? Having no input in the trajectory of your relationship, of how you want to be led, means that you are going to fall into your partner's shadow. He is not going to find that attractive in the long run, and in the long run, you're not going to find yourself attractive, and in turn, you're not going to find him attractive, because you will have thought that he's brought out this worse, diluted version of you. Don't panic, there is a way. In fact, there are 3 ways that you can orchestrate his beliefs to be beliefs that you want him to demonstrate. You want him to adopt your school of thought, your ideology. Well, this is exactly how you're going to do it. So stick around and make sure you lock in for the whole episode, because this one is a good one. And it's all coming up right now. Hi, welcome back to the Vibration Vault. My name is Alia Saray. I help women all over the world navigate their love life in a more feminine way. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, make sure to subscribe to stick around. Okay, let's begin. Have you ever been in a situation with your partner and he is explaining something to you with so much conviction? He is talking about something he read, something he had been told, something that he had heard about from a video that he watched, and he's telling you this with so much certainty and so much passion, and then all of a sudden you look at him and you're like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm the one that taught you that." All of a sudden, it comes back to you in a flashback. You're thinking, I remember the exact date, the exact time. I know exactly where we were. I know exactly what we were eating when I told you about that. Meanwhile, he has zero recollection of this day. He has absolutely no idea where this brilliant insight actually stemmed from. So this is what you need to know. Men, especially the corporate high achieving ones, are absorbing information from a million gazillion different sources all day long. Meetings, emails, podcasts, Twitter, their friend at work called Steve, and of course, you. So how does this benefit you, and why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because he rarely remembers the source. Just like when he was telling you that thing that you had already taught him about, and now he's reteaching it to you, not remembering that you were the sole source of why he has access to that school of thought or to that piece of information. That's the cheat code. That's when you can start to take advantage of that. So how do you do that? Instead of nagging him, instead of making these big demands, instead of getting frustrated, instead of crying, instead of desperately trying to get your point across in order to get him to do the things that you want him to do, you're going to start inspiring him to start adopting your way of thinking. And you're going to do that all whilst making him believe that it was his idea all along. Let me show you how, okay? First things first is the strategic information drop. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you and him have children and you want him to be more hands-on with the kids. You don't want to be the bad cop all the time. Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to start to mention something that you've read, something that you've watched. Maybe it's a study, maybe it's a book that you read, maybe it was from a podcast, from a psychologist. Ideally, you want to be getting this from a credible source. Then you're going to tell him about what you've learned, and you're going to watch as his brain stores this as information. And it's not just any sort of information it's going to store as. It's going to store as a thought in his own belief system. He's going to think that that's a thought he came up with on his own. Let me give you an example. You would say to your partner casually, Darling, I was reading this study and it completely blew my mind. Did you know that the first 5 years of a child's life is really, really important and crucial for their intelligence and their emotional security? Apparently, it was saying that kids with strong male role models who are actively involved in their daily routine end up performing so much better than the other kids at school. It was saying something like they go on to form healthier relationships and they have higher emotional intelligence as adults. Isn't that crazy? And then silence. What happens next? A few weeks later, a few days later, he's the one now telling you about how important it is for the first 5 years of a child's life to have a really strong male figure in their life, for their emotional intelligence to evolve, for that intelligence to evolve, and it makes them overall better human beings later on in life. And suddenly you start to see it in his actions. Without you having to say a word, he's stepping up for the kids more. He's showing up. He's parenting them better. He's being present in their lives, all without you having to get into some sort of horrible altercation with him. I appreciate that a lot of women that watch my channel and that might be watching right now might not have children. We might not be there yet. But even if you don't have kids, you can still use this hack. It's about dropping strategic pieces of information from a credible source. So an example that you guys could use would be, oh my gosh, I was reading this study or I was watching this video and it was talking about how men feel way more masculine when they are the sole provider of the home. Again, watch how he starts to store that fact as his own belief and his own thought in his memory. Also, FYI, there is an actual study to support that. So that is a genuine example that you could use. And when you use an example like that, you'll start to notice how he wants to start picking up more of the responsibilities in your relationship. He wants to start providing for you more because a man wants to feel in his masculine energy. So if he now believes from his own belief system that by him taking on more responsibility, it's going to make him feel like more of a man, that's exactly what every single man wants, to fuel his own ego. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you get that one. So let's move on to number 2. This one is the affirmative praise trick. Man, a real man, loves to live up to the image that you hold of him. If you make him feel like he's already the type of man who lives up to your expectations and does as you want him to do, trust me, he will rise to the occasion. Let me give you an example. Let's stay on the theme of a husband and a child. So instead of saying, why don't you help with the kids more? You would say, you know what, baby? I always knew you'd be such a hands-on dad. I make such good decisions. I knew I made such a good decision to start a family with you. I'm just so excited that we get to do this together. Boom. All of a sudden, now he's thinking, oh my gosh, she really believes in me. Oh my gosh, she really chose me. I have to step up. I have to live up to her expectations. I have to please her. A man who genuinely to his core loves you wants to please you, but he has to know what you expect and what you desire and what you need in order to please you. Remember, men are not mind readers. Also, if you don't have kids, you can still use this hack. You would just say something like, oh my gosh, I can just tell that you know how to look after a woman. Is that something that you learned from your dad? Or is that something that you learned from your mom? You just seem like you've got a very stable energy about you. This means that even if he didn't come from a very stable home, he's going to look at his experience as something that he learned from and something that he wants to be different from. Or it's going to highlight that he did come from a stable home and it's something that he wants to continue because it's something now he's getting positive praise for being. So this is not you waiting for him to demonstrate the behavior. It's praising the behavior before it's been demonstrated in order for him to show you that he can demonstrate and be that person because you've made him believe that he already is that person. Now he subconsciously wants to live up to it. Okay, now that I am totally sure that you understand that one, the third one is the reflective hack. This one is super transformative. This one is really powerful. Let me give you an example. Okay, let's say you really don't like how he's disciplining the kids. Your children are young, they're walking around, climbing on tables, jumping off furniture. Essentially, they're just being kids. But your partner, he's shouting at them, get down off that, don't jump on there. He can't see that the kids are probably looking at this table as this big mountain and that the floor is lava. Their imagination is running wild, and you know that it's important for them to explore that. You know that it's important to let the kids be kids, but your partner, your husband, is trying to step in and be a bit too overprotective. You don't want to say anything because you know that it comes from a place of love, but ultimately it's not something that can continue on. Telling him directly is obviously not an option here, so please don't do that, because instantly he's going to grow to become very defensive. It's going to make him feel like you don't really trust him. Instead, what you really want to do in this situation is make him reflect on his own childhood. Let me give you an example. You would say, in a very, very casual setting, you're sitting down on an evening, kids are asleep in bed, you're there with a cup of tea, relaxing with him, and you say to him, baby, what's one thing that you think you wish your parents would have done differently when they were raising you? He might turn around and say, I wish my dad didn't get so angry. I wish he didn't shout so much. It really never worked, It just made us want to rebel and do other things that probably weren't good for us. In which you would respond saying something to support that. Like, yeah, baby, I totally get that. Perhaps you just had a different learning style to what he had growing up. I wonder if our kids do too. Now, what you're getting him to do is, on his own terms, reconsider his approach. Because what he might think might be working for his children might not actually be working for them, because now you've just brought up this idea of different learning styles. Okay, so let me also give you an example for the girlies that are watching that don't have children right now, but you're in a relationship, but you want to ask him this reflective question. You could ask him this question again in a really relaxed setting and environment. You could say, in your previous relationship, what part do you feel like you could have done better? What part do you really think that you could have improved? And what part did you think that you failed at? And what did you learn from it? Like, what would you do differently that, had you not have gone through that, you couldn't show up for me in the way that you can now? You see, I know a lot of women will hear that and think, Alia, I'm not his therapist. I'm not asking these questions. But you're also the same women that are asking silly questions. You're not a performing monkey. You don't need to ask silly questions and waste the time that you do have with him asking questions like, would you still love me if I was a worm? No, we need to be using our time to ask reflective questions. Reflective questions are going to force him to look inwards at his own behavior and take accountability for his own mistakes and the lessons that he's learned along the way. How is he going to implement them? Has he even considered that maybe he did play a role in the downfall of his previous relationship? It forces your partner to take ownership of his previous mistakes, and also it's going to bring those mistakes to the forefront of his brain and make sure that he adjusts his behavior. You're consciously taking him out of repeating those same patterns with you in your relationship. So now what's happening is he's consciously and actively changing his behavior, and it's not because you told him to, but you just guided him there. So now you're still able to relax and let him lead, but this is an idea of showing a man how you want to be led. Remember, feminine energy isn't about demanding, it's about inspiring. It's about placing thoughts into his mind that later feel like his own mini little revelations. It's about using affirmative language to reinforce the behavior that you really want to see in him. It's about asking reflective questions that lead him to change without making him feel like he's being controlled by you. And in turn, he's going to fall madly and deeply in love with you, because with you, he is the best version of himself. The version of him that he becomes with you does not exist without you. You are the fuel for his fire. If a lot of this episode has felt really overwhelming to you because you're thinking, I can't retain all of this information, how do I know how to use my words in this sentence? I totally get that. This is a whole different language that you're learning. This is the feminine language, but I promise you, once you learn this, life will get easy for you. If you want a complete rebrand, you want a complete transformation, then check the link down below in my Stan store. I'm doing the 1 month transformational package. You and I together, brand new story for you, brand new pool of men that you will attract because you are the higher caliber of woman. So that is a wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, then you are going to love all of the other episodes on my channel. So obviously be sure to go and check those out. So I will either see you over there at my other episodes, or I will just see you next time. Mwah! I love you. Bye.